So in the last lecture, you saw how you can extend Mongoose with your own functionality, and that is really powerful. Now, obviously, also check the official docs. There, under schema, you can learn way more about that. This is the technique we just used. We added an instance method. You can add more about that and all the nice features you can add to your own schemas and models. So definitely check that out for all the details that could be interesting to you. Now here, I want to work on the route that allows us to load the card. And this is a nice practice for you again. Feel free to pause the video at this point and go ahead and try to implement this on your own before we then do it together. Were you successful? Well, let's go to the shop.js file in the controllers folder, and we're looking for the getCard method here. Now, there we have request user getCard, and getCard is a method we defined in the past which does not exist by default. Mongoose does not give us this method. So we again have to revisit our user model. And in there, let's have a look at getCard, how we defined it in the past. In the past, we simply reached out to our card items, we got all the product IDs, and then we had a look at the products collection to find all the products in there, convert this to an array, and return the products. So essentially, getCard gave us an array of all the products in the cart. Now, with Mongoose, this is a bit easier. We already have our nested card items array. And if we have a look at Compass, we see the items are objects where we have the product ID. And now we simply need to populate the product ID with all the data we are interested in. So in shop.js and getCard, I will not call getCard on my user. Instead, we can call populate on the user to fetch data. Even though we already fetched the user, we can also call populate on that and tell Mongoose to fetch data for, now which path is it? Well, for cart.items.product ID. Let me console log my products here to see if that works. Now we also need to add that route again. So in the shop.js file in the routes folder, let's add that getCard route again. And with that changed, let me load the card page and get an error. The reason for that is populate does exist, but actually it does not return a promise. So calling then on it would not work. We have to chain exec populate after that, and then we'll get a promise. So then we should be able to call then. So now with that, let's log products, save that, and reload that page. Now I get no products in cart, but if I go back, well, we see actually what we have here is the full user object, which makes sense because we're not just fetching products, we still work with the full user. So that is a tiny change. So let's actually use or log the user card items here to see if that was still populated with all the item data. And I'll temporarily create an empty products array so that the rest of the code does not fail. And now let's save that and reload the card page one more time. If I now go back, you see indeed here what I log, user card items, now is an array of items where the product ID is populated with the product data. So now it works a bit different than before, but it still gives us the data we need. So here, products now actually is user card items, and that is what I pass to my view, but I will need to look into my view now because the structure changed a bit compared to before. The cart.ejs file is what we need to edit, and in there we loop through all products, which is fine, but remember that our product data will then be nested in a product ID field, and you could also rename this to just product in your schema therefore, which makes a bit more sense, I guess. But I still have product ID here, so the title is not available on the top level object, which would be this object, but on the nested product ID object. So here we have to say p.productid.title. The quantity is on the top level object, so this is fine. The product ID again can be found on the product ID nested or embedded document though. So with that, let's save that and let's now reload the cart page And indeed, we see our card item here now. So this is looking better. Now we're able to populate our card with data.